So welcome everyone. Welcome to today's BEwell Hub series. We're diving into a topic that's on everyone's lips and fingertips these days, mindful dating. In a world of swipes, likes, and endless options, how do we move beyond the surface and find something real? That was a question that came to me when I was thinking about mindful dating and asking Kimberly to come on and throw some insights into this topic. So that's where mindful dating comes in, a fresh, intentional approach to building connections that actually matter. To help us unpack this, we have Kimberly Lechnick, a relationship coach who knows exactly how to help us navigate the dating world with clarity, purpose, and a little fun as well along the way. That's what we want. Kimberly specializes in helping people cut through the chaos of modern dating, how to stay authentic, set meaningful intentions, and build deeper, lasting connections. Whether you're navigating dating apps, meeting in person, or rediscovering love. So let's give a warm welcome to Kimberly and get started. So with this endless options and hidden delusions at our fingertips, that's what happens sometimes. We're disappointed because we expect the knight in shining armor to turn up and so on, but it's not always the case. So is there a way to navigate with clarity, intention, and even a little joy? Tell us a little bit about how we can approach these dating apps.
Well, first of all, I want to appreciate you for, extending the invitation to me, Gary. I really appreciate this because this is such an important conversation in terms of modern dating. So thank you so much. I'm just so blessed to be here with you today. So what are some tips? Well, years ago, what would we do? We would walk into a crowded room and we would see a variety of different people in the room, right? Today, because of the revolution of dating, or the evolution, I should say, because of the evolution of dating, we have endless amounts of people at our fingertips. So, how we can navigate that, first and foremost, for me, always comes down to knowing ourselves, right? Because we can go into this app and we can look at a variety of different photos of people, right? But
Yeah.
you and I both know that that is so superficial. It's so superficial because why are we swiping right or swiping left? We're doing that based on that initial attraction, right? Do we like the way this person looks? Right? So, first, I would say take a little bit more of an intentional approach, right? And look at that profile. And we'll get into some other things later, but take a look at the profile and really lean into what you're feeling. I think I say that's why it's so important to know yourself. Because, yes, of course, especially where men are concerned, they look at the photo and men are
Yeah.
visual, so they see that visual, but really we don't know what's going on behind the picture. So I say be intentional about this.
So isn't the first the first approach, Kimberly, even in a face-to-face, in an in-person meeting, is that physical attraction? Is that those butterflies that come to you when you see someone and you're physically attracted, the feeling that you get? Is that what you're saying? You're saying that we should be bypassing that and go a little bit deeper into the profile of the person, or just go for the what actually makes your heart beat?
You know what? We cannot ignore there needs to be chemistry, right? So by no means am I saying, okay, it doesn't matter what that person looks like. Absolutely not. There needs to be a chemistry. But you said something really important there, Gary, and that is butterflies. And I just want to clarify for your audience. If you are feeling butterflies, that is your signal
Mm.
to take a step back because it's not butterflies. It's about, yeah, this is the kind of woman, this is the kind of man that I'm attracted to. Again, if you're approaching it from that aspect, you're more apt to lean into what you're truly looking for. Are you looking for someone that you want to spend your life with, or are you just looking to have a good time? Right? What is your intention?
I'm just taking a step back, Kimberly, trying to understand before we even get onto these dating apps. There's a bit of a profiling, right? And so the question is, how do we know what we're looking for?
This is really interesting. There's a terrific book out there. The author will come to me, but he comes at it from a biblical perspective. And he says, a lot of times our approach to dating is that we're going into it and we want to have fun, right?
Mm,
But he uses this analogy where he says, if you get in your car and you don't plug your directions into the GPS, you don't know where you're going. It's the same thing. Why are you on that dating app to begin with? And then if you know that before you even get onto it and you see the photos, because it can be like a candy store, right? If we're not in, we don't have discipline and we don't have self-control, when we get into that, it can just take us away into some kind of fantasy land. We can endlessly be swiping and swiping and swiping and swiping. And I think people can also feel that energy. So
So is this like is this one of the challenges today for people who are on these dating apps? Are we looking for perfection? Because I mean, if you're swiping left, right, I mean, you know, how many are you discarding? And so when you're discarding them, for what reasons are you discarding? Is it just a physical discarding, or are you reading the profile and discarding? What do people normally do like
what
that?
I hear from clients is
Mm,
that the physical is that first thing, right? So they're
mm,
looking at the physical and whether or not they even spend a couple minutes on the profile, right? But
mm,
again, I can't clarify enough. Am I attracted to this person? First of all, you have to tell yourself you don't know this person. You're seeing
mm.
their picture. You do not know what is behind that photo. And I think it's really important. That's what I mean by being grounded, right? You know, it's great. Like what happens when we send our kids into the candy store? They can go nuts. But we're adults and we have to have some self-control, right?
Mm.
And so I think it's really important to go in, understand what you're looking for. Again, are you looking just for a good time? Or are you looking for a relationship? If you're looking for a relationship, you're going to be very intentional about that. And when you're getting to know someone, as soon as they're sending, can you believe it? They send these eggplant emojis, or I've had clients that have had body parts sent to them.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
you know right away that is a red flag. You block the person and you move on.
But that doesn't always happen, does it? I mean, those red flags do come up, but people still go on. Why is that? Why they still proceed with the either sending photographs of themselves or sharing really intimate information with these people? Why is that? Is that because they want to be loved? They feel insecure? What is the what pushes these people to do that, to go and share their intimacy with complete strangers?
Well, I think what it does signify is that if they're going in and they want to have a good time and they're just looking for someone to have sex with, right? And we don't know. See, this is the danger in it. If you are showing up that way, then that other individual and you're playing along with it, you're sending a distinct message that that is who you are at your core. You have to be very, very mindful, mindful about that because you're sending a message that you're up for anything. And so you can get into some very compromising positions if that happens. So again, somebody sends you a picture of their body part, you have to remind yourself, I do not know this person. This person is sending me pictures of their body, their intimate pictures of their body. What possibly could this be showing me? It could be showing me that they are just interested in sex. Block. Again, if that is not your intention. If your intention is to find a relationship, chances are, if somebody's initial interaction with you is to pursue you based on your picture, and then to pursue you based on the fact that they're going to interact with you by sending you body parts, that's probably a signal to you that that is not a quality relationship.
You mentioned like maybe just having I don't know, some fun or someone actually going into a serious relationship. I remember like when speaking from the man's point of view, as soon as if you sort of came onto a woman and you said you had serious intentions, they would run away. Women would say, "Oh, this is like, you know, it's too heavy." I mean, how can men overcome this saying, "I'm looking for a relationship," without scaring women away straight away, or vice versa?
That's a terrific question. I'm not implying by any stretch of the imagination that you go in, you know, you want a relationship, right? So this is information that you have. I'm looking for a relationship. So what do you do when you meet somebody? You say hello to them. Say, you know what? Let's say they put something in regards to that they're athletic on their profile. I see that you're athletic because again, you don't know them. You don't know that to be true anyway, right? Until you move it to the next step. right? And you're going to be mindful about that too, because you're going to be able to see that before you even move to a Zoom call or you move to a coffee date. Again, this is intentional. You have to verify them.
Why is that, Kimberly? Why are we saying that it's not a good idea to go and meet someone face to face? Why are you saying? Because I mean, we used to do that in the past. You know, we had people in the bar or face to face, and you dealt with the situation. But now we're saying this is not a good idea. It's better a phone call, a Zoom, and then a coffee, etc. Why these steps?
Well, first, again, going back, you don't know this person. And basically, you're showing this is first impression. How do I want to be perceived? Forget about the other person. How do I want to be perceived in this relationship? See, we're sending messages without even doing it. And again, the woman has the ability, I think, to kind of control the narrative to a degree, right? How does she want to be perceived? Again, men too, absolutely. But if we're looking at the dating dynamic, I feel like it's really important to the process. Again, you're taking your time. You're asking, you're being more interested than interesting, because when we sit back and we listen, the other person will tell us things. Sometimes don't even have to ask them.
Would you say now with these dating apps that women are coming to the forefront now compared, because you said before, like women can control the narratives, but it's always been the men who've taken the first step in the past.
Mhm.
So the initiative was always the man making the first move, going, getting a drink, or asking a woman to go out with them. But would you say now with the dating apps that women are taking more initiatives? They're becoming braver. They're actually, what's your
Well,
take on that?
I think we can see by what's happening with women today, right? We're in more high-powered positions. We're taking more of a masculine role in the workforce. So of course, that's going to transition into our personal lives. People don't have to show their full self when you're online. You're behind the computer screen. So when you're taking your time, it's almost like a self-preservation and a self-protection, knowing there are certain things that you're interested in a relationship. And by giving yourself that phone call, the FaceTime or the Zoom, and then a coffee date, possibly because you've already gone through your criteria of how you would like this to move forward or not. I think that it's good for both people actually involved, right? Because our time is valuable.
But good, a good point there. Time. We're talking about time here. I would say like the dating apps are used by people who don't have time, very busy people, men and women, and
Mhm.
so they go on a dating app to try and find a person as soon as possible. Let's say within 2 or 3 days or a week or whatever it is. Yet on one hand, and on one hand you're saving time. On the other hand, we're saying to be cautious and not just jump in.
Mhm.
It's a good idea to actually have a phone call, maybe a Zoom call, and then go in person for the meeting. So that takes more time. So how is that contradiction? How do you see that?
I don't necessarily see it as a contradiction, because if you look at the endless hours that people are spending swiping on their phones, looking at these profiles, reading these profiles, going through them, that's hours. And I'm just suggesting a 15-20 minute phone call to make that initial connection, to hear the person's voice. And then a natural transition would be to get on a FaceTime or a Zoom. You get to determine the length of that. And then you feel comfortable enough, go on a date. If the coffee date suits you, go on the coffee date. If you're saying, you know what, no, I feel totally comfortable with this person, I'm ready for dinner, then meet them for dinner. But again, being mindful on what you're comfortable with. I don't know if you've ever seen the Tindler Swindler. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah.
These women were totally consumed because they had some wounds that they did not take a look at. Come on. If it's too good to be true, it is. And that's not just in the dating process, it's for anything in life.
Tell us a little bit about this. It was a Tinder swindler. That was what do you remember the story? What was that? So some of our listeners can actually maybe go and have a look at the film and try and get some information about dating apps. What was the danger there?
So the danger is that this guy had an Instagram, right? And he's posting that he's going out to all these places, and these women are connecting with him. and they're connecting with him. And the first connection is, oh, I'm in London. They're on the phone. I'm in London. I'm here. I'm there. And, this is so wonderful. And I want to whisk you away on a date. I want to do this for you. And these women, again, they might have had mommy wounds. They might have had daddy wounds, but they're thinking, oh my gosh, this person's going to solve all my problems. This is not realistic, whether we're meeting somebody in person or we're meeting them through a dating app. These would be some of the red flags that we should look out for. Is someone saying, oh, I do this. I have this house here. I have that house there. I don't know you. Why are you trying to impress me? I want to use a personal anecdote before I got married to my husband. So I met this guy and I really liked him. And I thought he was really nice and take me to these really nice restaurants. One day he said, I've got a fantastic plan for you. I want you to meet me at the local airport and I'm going to take you downtown into the city. And I'm like, what? So he had me meet him on the helipad and he whisked me away to a beautiful dinner in the city. And after I thought about it, I thought, I'm really conservative. I really like this. It feels good. But long term, is this really quality material for any kind of long-term dating? It isn't. It feels good. It's great. But the conversation was not very deep. Didn't really want to go into any sort of details about himself, really. Told me a few anecdotes from his childhood, but always wanted to whisk me away and do these amazing things. And there was a part of his life that was a little bit of a secret. Now, for someone for fun who just wants to be a friend and wants to whisk you away here and whisk you away there, that's great. But for long-term relationship, not so much.
But isn't that what we're dreaming about, Kimberly? The romantic, being swept off our feet and taken here and taken there, and shown a lifestyle that maybe we are not living. We would like to live the dream.
Yes.
But isn't that what we're looking for? Isn't everyone trying to just improve or to actually dream bigger than where they are? Is that wrong?
There's no right or wrong in anything, but again, it comes back down to intention. What do you want? Do you want a long-term relationship? Because yes, at the beginning of a relationship, it feels really good. You've got those hormones going through, but that doesn't last. I've been married for 25 years now. It doesn't last. You can experience moments of it, and it's good. You can recreate that. But the actual substance of the relationship has nothing to do with about whisking you away. It has to do with whether or not that person's going to be there in the good and the bad. Whether or not they're going to turn away from you because they've had a little conflict. Whether or not they're going to grow alongside you, or they're just going to say, the heck with this is getting too boring, and I'm off going to do something else. Right? And the only way that we can do that is to be really intentional through the dating process.
Mm.
I really honestly believe that, right? There's no harm in having a good time. But if we're using the dating app, because the dating app is a tool, like you said, to be more effective and efficient, if we're using it in that way because we want to find someone to live out our life with, I really suggest doing it in an intentional manner.
Mm. Before the dating apps came along, we would find someone physically attractive, man, woman, and then that would be the first initial sort of call, the attraction. You'd go into it, not thinking, oh, I want to marry this woman, I'm going to have a life partner. You just think, I find this person physically attractive and I know and enjoyable. I want to stay with that person, and then things just develop. And then they develop into some sort of life stories or marriages or whatever. That was the process. But now are we overthinking the relationship? Is it like wow, we're going in there and we just, am I going to have fun? No, I can't have fun. I've got to start thinking serious intention and relationship and long term. Does that take away the fun aspects straight away because you're looking at something?
I think so. I
deeper?
mean, think about it in terms of our businesses, right? I mean, I have to be really intentional and focused on my business, right? I have to be really intentional. If I'm not, then what am I doing? I have to be very goal oriented. There's no different in our personal life. Like I said, if your goal is just to go out there and have a good time, have at it. But know that when you run into some of these situations where someone's ghosting you or someone's doing this, that it's part of the process, right? Because you didn't set the intention from the beginning. You didn't want a relationship. See, this happens. The person may go into it just wanting to have a good time. But then when the person ghosts them, they're like wondering, well, what's the deal? Did we ask that person what their intention was? Maybe they were in their intention without communicating it was to have a relationship. And when they realized that you were just having fun, instead of communicating that, they just left.
So talking about ghosting, Kimberly, that word there, that's becoming more and more into it's coming into our vocabulary.
Mhm.
Is the ghosting, is it to do with not having the ability to communicate your emotions, yourself, or is it the fear? Are you afraid, or even not the acceptance of not being accepted? It's like, when ghosts us, it don't reply to our messages, doesn't reply to our phone. We feel, disillusioned, disappointed, let down, and all that. But is that an emotion that we should feel on these dating apps or not? How do we deal with that ghosting?
Again, everything comes back to why you're on the app in the first place. If you're on the app, let's say you're on the app and you do want to find someone to be in a relationship with, right? You just do. You want a long-term relationship. And let's face it, the app gives us the ability to kind of be able to navigate the dating process more efficiently, more effectively. And it also allows us to control on both sides, right? To control the narrative on both sides on what we're comfortable with and what we're not. If someone ghosts us, I mean, it could be a number of things. It could be their fear of vulnerability. It could be communication. It could be like you didn't even talk about the intention to begin with, and that person just wanted a good time, right? There could be a lot of immaturity. So what we're experiencing, I think, and we're experiencing this term even in businesses, you're hearing it in the job hunt. There's so many different reasons. It's because we've got this screen protecting us, and a lot of people feel like they don't have to be accountable for their actions. It's not everyone, but it does happen. And when it does happen, I think it's important again in that growth process to know yourself, right? To know yourself. What are you comfortable with? What are you comfortable with? What are you willing to do? And know that that behavior says more about the other person than it even says about you,
Hmm.
right? And I'm a big believer in things being divine. If somebody walks out like that, they weren't meant to be in your life to begin with.
I think that when you worked on yourself, Kimberly, is that kind of, you can take that on board. But when
Mhm.
you haven't, you feel so hurt and pained and rejected, and no one wants to be rejected.
No.
So if someone hasn't worked on themselves, they don't have that substance, they don't have the solidity to actually go through with that. I mean, rejection is painful. How do you deal with that? How does someone deal with being rejected, ghosted, and so on?
Well, definitely, I think we can mitigate some of those things by, again, before we even go on the dating app, really knowing what we want to get out of it, right? Again, being really intentional. Let's say we weren't intentional and we just experienced these things anyway. If you do, take a step, take a breath, pause, maybe remove yourself from the app for a little bit. Maybe do some self-reflection, do some self-care, and then say, you know what? Ask yourself, do I really want to use this tool for dating? Or do I want to do things like go on single trips or put myself in church or in other places where I can find people that have the same core values as I do? Because maybe this dating app is not for me, but only I can make that decision. Nobody else, a coach, no one else can make those kinds of decisions except for the person that is experiencing that. And I think that's really, really important in the whole dating process. Again, remembering the
Some
app
people,
is just a tool.
so sometimes people come on dating app because they are, even sometimes, let's say, pushed by the society, by the people around in the environment. You're on your own, you've just separated, you're a widow or whatever, and
Mhm.
then you move to a new town, a new city, you don't know anyone. People just say, why don't you go on the app? And so you do go on the app. And so what are the reasons? I mean, you said intentions, okay, but what so many reasons people go on the app, not necessarily for sex or for marriage. There are other
Well,
reasons.
right. It can be for companionship, right? It can be just for mere companionship. But again, that's an intention. So you put on your profile, looking for looking for a companion, a platonic companion, looking for a different kind of companion, but again, being intentional about it, we're only responsible for ourselves. We're not responsible for what the other person does. So I think that's important again. And I think that for me, when I reflect on my life journey, even, knowing yourself is what keeps you rooted down into the ground, right? So nothing else around you, not to say you're immune to it, right? Because we're human, we get stung by a bee, we feel it, So I don't think it's that. But again, if someone is in a new place and they're, trying to connect with people, I think that in the times that we're living, it wouldn't be all unusual for someone to give someone that advice. Get on a dating app, but you have to ask yourself, is that really going to help me find community? Maybe I want to find community in different ways. Maybe I want to find community. For me, I love ballroom dancing, so maybe it's I go to the ballroom dancing, event, or I go to a garden show, or I go cooking. They have beautiful singles trips out there where you can just go on a trip and then you meet people and you have a good time. Again, it's all about intention. And I keep saying that. I know I'm repetitive about it, but that's why knowing yourself and knowing why you're doing these things is really important.
You mentioned before knowing yourself, knowing yourself. What do you mean by that? To know yourself?
Core values. What are
Mhm.
your core values?
Give,
What
give us give us some examples of people who are listening to us and we're having this conversation. What are we talking about? Core values. What is that?
So core values is I have a value for family,
Okay.
right? So let you use the example of a widow, right? I have a value of family. So when people meet me, they know family first, and my actions reflect that. So that would be an example of a core value. Another core value, honesty, right? Honesty. So honesty is a core value for me. So when I'm out and about and I'm meeting people and we're using the example of dating, I want to get to know someone and I am listening for certain information to tell me whether or not that person may share honesty with me, because that's an important core value. Now, it doesn't mean that all the people we need or meet are going to have identical core values to us. Absolutely not. But it's important for us to protect our energy and our hearts and know that um, it's important. So which core values are important enough that you want to see that reflected into the person, your person, or the person, for whatever reason you're choosing this person for companionship or what, has some semblance of that, right?
What kind of if I had to find out things that how can I find out my values, Kimberly? What is there a way for me to I don't know. How could I find out my values?
Well, this is where I love the growth process. Personal growth is so super important. I say journaling is also very important. Whether or not you like to jot things down and write on paper, or you like to just record your voice and do voice notes to yourself through apps, I think those are terrific ways to start to get to know yourself. Also, again, you dive into creativity, whatever that means to you. It could mean a golf game for you. It could mean you are a runner and you run, and that's your private time, your solace, where you get to be alone with yourself and you get to reflect on your day, what's happening in your life, but it's very, very important. And then you will be able to explore. I also have a core values bundle that I usually share with clients, and they have a bunch of core values. And it's just sometimes looking at these lists and journaling and reflecting on which ones really resonate with you. Again, getting to know yourself. We're so interested in getting to know other people and having relationships, but we have to ask ourselves two questions. Do I know myself? And what do I want?
So when you talk about values, I mean, how many values are we talking about? I mean, talk about 2, 3, 5, 10, 15. How many values are the core values of a person?
Say 3 to 5 you would pick, and those can change and evolve over time. Like most of the time they're going to stay pretty firm, right? Like so for me, for family, I mean that's not going to change, right? Honesty and integrity, it's just not going to change. That's what I look for in people. I'm not going to openly say, I value, well, I might say that later on, right? I value honesty. I really value integrity. Or maybe a person does something and I notice that and I say, wow, I'm like, I really respect that about you. And they might say, well, what do you mean? Well, I respect, what you did in that situation. That really shows me that you have a lot of integrity.
Yeah.
That's really great. You know, um, but
So
yeah, 3 to 5.
yeah, a question would be if, I mean, if you value honesty in another person, is that because they align with your value of honesty, or is it because something that you don't have and you admire in other people?
No, I think it's what's important to you. I think that's what these core values are all about. It's what's important to you. And again, when you're rooted that way, that the person, I call it the gold standard relationship, the partnered relationship is for me, it's like you're bringing that person into your space, in your most intimate space. And that person should really reflect some versions of what you find to be important.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It doesn't mean we don't lose our way, Gary. I mean, we're all human. We can lose our way. We can do this and that, but for the purposes of our conversation, um, of dating and the importance of it, it's so important. It's so, so very important.
So would you say that we can find out our values, Kimberly, by through the way we are, through the actions that we undertake, through the activities that we throw ourselves into? Is that where is this how we can find our values if someone doesn't know?
Absolutely. Get creative. Get creative. And I'm saying date yourself.
Yeah, give us an example of yourself as in an activity that you do and that shows one of your core values. So people
So
who are
the
listening.
activity itself does not necessarily show my core value. So the activity, I use the example of ballroom dancing. So, okay. So I love ballroom dancing, but it's so much so on a deep level, on a soul level that it really taps me into who I am internally as a person. So then,
What's the value that comes out when you're ballroom dancing? What is
oh
your
my gosh,
intrinsic core value that comes out?
freedom,
Okay, so you value freedom.
independence, soul, like love. And
Love,
again,
love for yourself or love, yeah,
yes. Oh,
compassion.
yes. It's like a deep soul connection for
Right.
me. Knowing myself. It's something about being on the floor and the movement, the physical movement, because the movements for me connect me um to who I am. Like I said, it's so deep
Okay.
that it's an expression. Now, gardening, it gives me a different connection, with the earth, the groundedness, being rooted.
The how would the value? I'm just trying to see from the activities that you do, ballroom dancing, gardening. What are the values that resonate in you at that time when you're doing that? Like, I mean, if someone is like, I don't know, a long distance runner, they love running. That's their activity. Perhaps they are resilient. Maybe
Mhm.
resilience is one of their values because that's because long distance running requires resilience. I don't know if someone is a ballroom dancer, maybe I don't know, just balance could
Mhm.
be a value because a balance in the body, physical balance, but also in life,
Yes.
managing. So that was my question. Can someone find their values looking at the activities that they do? That's my question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They don't necessarily have to be, see, to me, it's more of that creative expression that helps unfold. I had a client that loved to be in the shower by themselves.
Hmm.
And that was their quiet time, their solace, their soul time. And he would just be alone in there. Nobody's talking to him, nobody's requesting anything. This was his quiet time. And he was able to kind of understand himself more deeply.
So what was the value there then? What would be his value from that?
You know what, in that specific instance, we didn't really speak to that.
Okay.
That was more about really identifying moments in the day where there was dedicated time to his specific um, life. Like where did he find quiet time where he could really reflect on himself and learn to know himself a little bit more deeply. And that was another client, golfing, like, this is my creative space. This is where I was able to kind of open up myself to really know being in relationships. See, because I think that's important when we're talking about dating. But really, honestly, it all starts with ourselves. We need to understand who we are before we can be in a relationship with someone else.
Okay, exactly. I mean, I think what you're saying, who you are, I mean, is the question is, I don't know what to do. Like, when you ask someone, what do you want to do? Like, the question that they ask kids, what do you want to be when what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to do when you grow up? But I think maybe the question is, what do you want to be? Who do you want to become? And then once you know who you are, it naturally flows into what you do. Because
Yes.
if you know the way you are, who you are, then it goes against the grain when you do things that just don't match your being. Is that right?
Absolutely. And so when we're, again, bringing it back to our conversation on dating, that's why it's so important to know who you are, because then when you're intentional in this process using this tool, you can feel when somebody is not in alignment. You say you want to travel, and you're sharing all these travel experiences, and you want to find somebody that wants to at least engage in that activity with you a little bit, and they say, well, I'm a homebody.
Mm,
Well, if you know yourself, you're going to feel that in your body. Ooh, mismatch a little bit.
yeah.
Chances of this person, regardless of how gorgeous they are, chances of this person engaging in travel with you,
Mm,
slim to none. So you feel that in your body. And again, that's what this creativity does. It opens you up to really kind of hone in on, what do you really want? Because, I think that's important for us to ask that. Do you want honesty? Do you want someone that has some kind of integrity? And then more of the superficial things like the travel and the dinners out. And, I liked home cooked meals. Um, and the other person loves to travel, or I mean, loves to eat out,
yeah.
then there's a little bit of a mismatch. Can you work together to bring it into center a little bit, where twice a month that person's going out to dinner with you, once a month that person's going out to dinner with you? And does that
Yeah.
work for you?
Yeah, I think with the relationship, the traditional relationships, there was a lot of compromises, sacrifices, working together as a team to try and find the balance, to find the mutual enjoyment and activities that people can share. Perhaps now the dating apps don't give us this. It's everyone for themselves. I'm on the app, and what do I want? What do I want? I don't care what you want. You can look after yourself. I look after myself. So we're taking away this teamwork, this mutual, staying together and working together to get something. So,
Gary,
uh, uh,
I'm so happy that we're having this conversation, because I don't believe that to be antiquated at all. I believe that we're trying to move away from the value of family. Again, regardless of whether or not you're going to have children, regardless of whether or not if you are going to seek out someone to be in relationship with, that is a requirement.
yeah,
We do live in a space. I'm in agreement there, where we will see a lot of people trying to create their own world, when really, honestly, this is just basic stuff. We need to know the skill of conflict resolution. We need to understand that being in a relationship with another human being requires us to kind of get to know that person and learn what works. Now, if living separate lives as a companions, if that's how you want to design your life, well,
yeah.
nobody can say anything about that. That's fine. But really, truly being in relationship with someone, I think requires some of these skills.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this conversation is fascinating. We could continue talking for this because there's so much coming in, really, and we could just go deeper and deeper and deeper. But as we're coming to this, maybe Kimberly, if you would like to maybe conclude our talk, what can people take away from what we were talking about? We're talking about core values. We're talking about intention. We're talking. Tell me just to conclude, so when someone watching this will say, okay, this is what I'm going to take away from this conversation. Dating apps, mindful dating.
Yeah. So again, being mindful, using the tool, again, I use the word tool. It is a tool. It's a $1 billion tool. It's a $1 billion tool. There's a lot of people that are using it. So it's a $1 billion tool. Be intentional.
What do you mean by that? So just to,
Again, we're talking in terms of dating. I believe in intentionality across the board, but in terms of our conversation, being intentional means, what do you want? Before you even get on the app, what do you want? Ask yourself that question and see what kind of answers you get. Okay. Then I say that prioritize your personal development, right? You know, these ideas of setting boundaries, the fear of vulnerability, developing better communication, right? I think one of the questions, I'm not sure if we talked about it offline or online, was the idea of using voice notes and messages. This is so important to the integrity of our communication. Are we being clear communicators? Or are we not communicating in a clear way and somehow there's misunderstandings? Because imagine being in person and having misunderstandings, but being on an app where you're not even present with the other person, there is a lot. Texting leads a lot up for miscommunication and misunderstandings. So being mindful about our communication. And then again, just being safe. Being safe and having fun, right? Because this is a serious conversation, but I mean, the dating process is fun. You know, you're getting to know someone. It's a lot of fun. You can still have the fun and still be intentional about why you are choosing this app to find someone to be in relationship with.
Well, Kimberly, thank you very, very much. We've had a great conversation around mindful dating. I hope people are taking some interesting insights away. And so this is the BEwell recording on mindful dating. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary.